Truly a joy to be here. Sure to you people in the Deep South, I'm another one of those people that talks funny, but I hope we can communicate. I'm very pleased with the emphasis placed on safe rooms, on building a safer future, and the emphasis that is being placed on quality of safe rooms and quality of construction. So it's a joy for many reasons for me to be here. As I was preparing for this and looking at the richness of the opportunity that I have here and thinking about all that needs to be said, I felt surely my emotions must be about like a mosquito ascending upon a nudist colony. Just so much opportunity, it's hard to know where to start. I'm pleased to be up here for another reason. As humorist Murphy often said, if there's going to be a speech, I'd rather be giving it than hearing it. I want to cover several things in the time that I have available. This is a brief overview of what I want to say, why to have a safe room, how did the concept evolve, what are the design criteria, why do we feel safe rooms are indeed safe, available guidelines and standards, and you've seen a good bit of that already, and how do we verify standards compliance, why programs like the National Storm Shelter Association, and then some opportunities for improvement and further progress. You've seen scenes like this, and they're terrifying, and they answer the question of why do we need safe rooms. This family was unprepared for the tornado that occurred. This family was prepared and is rejoicing. This elementary school in Moore, Oklahoma was not prepared for the tornado. Fortunately, it was pretty vacant at the time the tornado occurred, but no one would have wanted to be there at the time of that tornado. This elementary school in Littlefield, Texas is prepared, and they've been prepared for 15 or 20 years, having built a safe room within the complex. This elementary school in Wichita, Kansas is prepared with a multi-purpose building, a FEMA 361 shelter that will protect the occupants of that school. As has been stated, the National Weather Service has done tremendous reporting and service to us and saved a lot of lives in the process. Lengthened the warning times for tornadoes and allowed people more and more time to get to a place of safety. But despite the fact that they've saved a lot of lives, these weather watches and warnings lead to anxiety if you have no place to go. And we did a study in the early 1980s, looked at the weather watches that were issued for a year's time, estimated the population of that, and multiplied over 3 billion person hours spent in a year under tornado watches. With the increased number of people, with the urban sprawl, with the better reporting, I think that number has no doubt doubled by now. So we're spending something like 6-7 billion person hours per year in severe weather watches. And that leads to a lot of anxiety, a lot of loss in productivity, a lot of health issues if we don't find a way to relieve that situation. So if built correctly, safe rooms will indeed save lives. They'll reduce that anxiety, and they'll even produce economic benefits. The most expensive part of a disaster, as economists tell us, a lot of property damage, but the most expensive part of it is the reduced business interruptions and the reduced number, and we need to reduce the number of closures. There's a statistic, I believe, that something like 45% of the businesses that are destroyed by a tornado never go back into business after the tornado. So that means jobs, that means business loss, a lot of other things. Talk a little bit about the genesis of wind research. Our efforts began with the Lubbock tornado in 1970, when a tornado hit Lubbock, Texas. 26 people were killed. About a third of the city was damaged. The icon for that tornado is this, what was then the Great Plains Life building, a 21-story building, the tallest building that had been impacted with an F5 tornado at that time, may still be. The building still stands. It's been repaired. It's warped a little bit. It has some permanent deformation in it, but it's serving well. Since 1970, we've studied the effects of about 150 major storms, most of them tornadoes, and learned a great deal from it. We saw over and over scenes like this where a portion of the building is still standing. The inspiration for the above-ground storm shelter came as early as 1972 in Burnett, Texas, when a tornado hit Burnett and another little town at the same time. There was a portion of a pantry still standing, but then perhaps the most vivid picture of inspiration of the safe room came from Zania, Ohio. Incidentally, they have been hit 3 times with tornadoes. Was this room standing out there in the middle of an area of devastation. You can see that the roof is gone, the door is gone. It's been impacted by debris, but the fact is that it's still standing and would have provided some protection. So the conclusion was that if we hardened and stiffened that small room, it could be done very inexpensively and could provide a very, very high degree of occupant protection for relatively low cost. So that is basically the approach that we would use to design a room or a module to protect the occupants, the critical functions, and the critical contents, and then simply to improve the building envelope to reduce damage to building and contents. And that's primarily a function of building codes. So one of the ways to reduce the economic loss in disasters is to improve building codes to focus on that building envelope. 1972, then the concept emerged for the residential safe room, or storm shelter as it was called at that time. The first publication was in 1974, and in 1975 built a demonstration safe room in a new house that I had just built for my family. 1982, FEMA published the occupant interim guidelines for occupant protection, and amazingly, I think that document still serves, and the criteria for design of safe rooms is very much the same as in that document. So we had some designs that we felt were creditable, but not many people knew about them, so there was not much activity in shelter construction for a long period of time. Then in 1997, a devastating tornado occurred in Jarrell, Texas, which is just north of Austin, a small subdivision of Jarrell, and Jarrell itself has no building code, much less that subdivision. Some inexpensive, lightweight houses were there, and almost all the people who were at home were killed in that tornado. Dateline NBC came down and did a documentary on that, met up with some of our researchers in the field and said, what could have been done to save these lives? And introduced to the concept of the above-ground storm shelter, and they came to Texas Tech and filmed the debris impact test facility. That got widespread attention, and other media came and filmed as well. And in 1998, then FEMA published the first edition of FEMA 320. And so we had now prescriptive designs for storm shelters, and they were starting to catch on. An above-ground storm shelter survived an F5 tornado in Oklahoma. That was significant. It too got widespread visibility, and it was significant in that some people who felt it wasn't safe to be above ground, if it was an intense tornado, you had to be underground. So this made believers out of some. Unfortunately, I would say there are yet some today who feel that you cannot protect people above ground, and that's a great impediment to our progress here. And so if I can do anything to turn the corner and change paradigms of those people, I'd like to spend some time with them. FEMA also provided a shelter incentive grant program. The first one that I'm familiar with followed that Oklahoma City disaster. We had then a significant level of activity in shelter construction, some above ground in Oklahoma City or in Oklahoma after that time. The design criteria have been basically the same. We designed for 250 mile per hour ground level wind speeds. You read accounts of higher wind speeds being measured, but usually it's a Doppler radar measurement that measures wind speeds at, say, 600 feet in the air, not at ground level. We feel that the worst damage we have seen could be caused by wind speeds of approximately 200 miles per hour. And since the wind-induced pressure is a function of the square of the wind speed, if we expect the worst of 200 miles per hour and we design for 250, square that and you get a substantial margin of safety with the higher design wind speed. Furthermore, the debris impacts corresponding to that we feel is a 15-pound 2x4 traveling at 100 miles per hour. And again, there are many margins of safety there. We test for debris impact resistance, assuming that the 2x4 is traveling perpendicular to the surface without pitch or yaw at 100 miles per hour. And we're confident that that's safe and adequate.